Hi, this is the voice of Heidie Calero with another economic capsule regarding the Puerto Rico economy, and we have entitled this capsule with the provocative title of A Missing Opportunity. As economists, we are pretty good at diagnosis, but this time we are trying to give you a solution, something that Puerto Rico needs if it's going to pull out of its economic depression and its stagnant and depressing economic growth. The first graph that I'm depicting for you is manufacturing as a percentage of gross domestic product of different countries. An international comparison whereby the light blue line that you see at the top of this graph, which is from the Economist, is China. And China, as of 2022, is almost 29% of its gross domestic product is manufactured. Of course, it has been going down since 2010, when China used to be like 32%, but COVID really has been affecting China. Next in line is Germany with about, that deep blue line that you see there, it's about 20%. Then it's that light orange is Japan with approximately 19% of its manufacturing as a percentage of gross domestic product. Then we have India, that red line, it's about 15%. The US, which is this light, also a darker blue, but it's the lower one, it's about 10%. And finally, you have France, gray, it's almost 10%. And then Great Britain, it's about 9%. So an international comparison ranging from 9% in the UK and Britain to almost 29% in China. And this time, look at Puerto Rico. This is the next graph, which depicts for you in all these bars from 1996, that's the manufacturing contribution to gross domestic product. And it was back in 1996, like $18.5 billion in manufacturing output, and that represented 41% of gross domestic product in all of the economy. Let's go to 2022, and we are now at $48.8 billion in 2022, and that accounts for 43% of gross domestic product. Rest assured, it's not tourism, it's not services, it's manufacturing what really pulls this economy forward in terms of its economic growth, in terms of its exports, and their well-paid jobs. The next graph depicts for you what we are saying, this missed opportunity. Look at what China is doing. China exports to the US. This is the purple line that you're seeing in this graph. Started with $18.2 billion in exports of pharmaceuticals alone to the United States, $18.2 billion. By 2022, the last official figure that we have, it's $34.9 billion in pharmaceuticals alone. If we were to include machinery and equipment, it's even higher, that percentage. But we are concentrating here on pharma because that is the missed opportunity for Puerto Rico. And yet, look at the green line. The green line is Puerto Rico's exports or shipments of pharma to the US. And we started with $39.4 billion in 2017. Now in 2022, we are down to $33.5 billion. So what has been happening to manufacturing pharmaceuticals as exports to the US? They have been going down at a clip of -3% from 2017 through 2022. And what is happening with China, who's eating candy, even though its economy has been slowing its growth, but it has been growing its exports to the US. It's been growing at a clip of 14% annually since 2017. What a missed opportunity, since after COVID-19, all these interruptions of international supply lines, and the US in this movement to bring many of these US manufacturing companies back to US flag. Well, Puerto Rico is US flag jurisdiction. We have a pharmaceutical center of international production, which has nothing to envy any other country in the world, because we have the big names, the Abbotts, the J&J, the Bristol Myers, you name it. They are here in Puerto Rico. Why is Puerto Rico not discussing this as saying, look, we can really export more to the US. We can really have more of this production. but we need that discussion at the congressional level, at the White House level, and it's not just at this policy level in Puerto Rico, just concentrating on what? Federal funds. It's not a good political strategy, and least of all, not a good economic strategy. To only signify the importance of these companies for fiscal revenues, back in 2011, Governor Fortuño adopted and presented this law, which is Law 154, which established a 4% tax on the exports of foreign companies. And for Puerto Rico as a foreign jurisdiction, U.S. companies are foreign. So they started contributing back in 2012 already 22% of the fiscal revenues of the central government, at least of the general fund. And that was $1.9 billion. Back in 2019, we were up to $2.1 billion for 18% of fiscal revenues, even though lower percentage than in 2012, but it is a larger base of $2.1 billion. And now, as of 2022, it's about $1.5 billion, and it's slightly 14% of the fiscal revenues. And the forecast of PROMESA, which is something extraordinary, I don't put any faith on the forecast of PROMESA, they say that Law 154 will continue even into 2027, when the U.S. Treasury has already advised Puerto Rico, told them in no uncertain terms that Law 154 has to stop, has to finish. So what is Puerto Rico doing in terms of renegotiating with these companies? Are they going to stay in Puerto Rico? Are they leaving? We still don't know, because these negotiations have been mostly secret. And then finally, we are lower and older in terms of our population, and that's a population that demands more and more of these pharmaceutical healthcare products. And of course, this is a population that will depend more on labor force growth and of course on economic growth. And our final graph depicts for you the declining growth. This is all the bars of real rates of growth from 1996, when we were growing at a clip of 3.3% annually. Now, by 2023, PROMESA is forecasting negative